van sport gaan ons na leen verklikker toetse. Ja, dit gaan interessant wees. Saam met ons in die ateljee, Chuck Slupski, president van American International Institute of Polygraph. Good morning, Chuck.
Well, good morning. Thank you for letting me speak.
No, it's our privilege. And I just want to go back to the beginning. You were initially trained as a polygraph examiner while as a special agent with the U.S. Army. Fascinating stuff. The moment I hear special agents, I see movies. But this is real life. And that was the Criminal Investigation Command in 1983. Is that where your love started for polygraph testing?
It was almost near the end of my military career when I became a polygraph examiner. Yes, in criminal investigations.
Sure. And the U.S., how long were you in the U.S. Army?
25 years.
Wow. So you like a veteran?
Yes.
I hope so. But why that route? Why not just retire?
After retiring from the military, I realized that I had an opportunity to start a second profession or like a second career. And so I stayed with the polygraph because that's what I learned while I was in the military.
So let's start at the beginning as well. What is a polygraph examination?
Examination is actually an interview process where, if done correctly, it's a semi-structured interview process where the polygraph instrument is just used for a small time period during a longer interview process.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how accurate and reliable would you describe polygraphs?
There's several different types of examinations, but you could take all the different types and group them into two groups. Diagnostic tests, when you're testing like a reported crime, or tests that are more of a screening nature for someone that might be applying for a job in vetting. And so on average for the diagnostic, where you're just testing one issue, the accuracy can be somewhere between 90 and 95% if the examiner properly conducts the examination. Wow. And the screening exams accuracies on average would be somewhere around 85 to perhaps 88.
Sure. So now you're also a member and former president of the South African Professional Polygraph Association. So all the way from America, how did your path cross South Africa?
I was very lucky to have a gentleman come from South Africa at that time. He was with the National Police, visited me in my office in Atlanta, Georgia, asked me to come here to present a training program for the police and defense forces. So that was my first trip here to South Africa 20-some years ago. And
you've been here since then?
Not permanently, yes.
Not permanently.
It's a back and forth. I come 2 or 3 weeks at a time, about 4 or 6 times a year.
Sure.
I see you've brought a lot of instrumentation as well as the computer or laptop. You said the test is being computerized at this very moment, so it doesn't really matter how big the computer is that you use it on. But the instruments and things that you've brought with, can you maybe take us through that's needed for a test?
Yes, every exam should consist of 2 recordings of upper body movement with something called a pneumograph chest assembly. And of course, we've probably seen on TV where they put some metal finger plates or disposable sensors on a person's skin. And we're very interested in recording cardiovascular activity, blood pressure, heart rate, or blood volume near the surface of the skin.
Sure.
So all modern polygraphs record the same basic physiological functions that's been recorded in parts of the world for about 100 years.
Yeah, and the tempo of the breathing, blood pressure, etc.
The breathing isn't actually all that important like most people think. It's more body movement because certain psychological factors such as lying can make some people's blood pressure go up. Movement also makes blood pressure go up, so it's very important for anyone taking a test to try to sit as still as possible without moving.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I think when you look to your left the whole time, you're lying.
Yeah,
that's what I Googled. Just check the eyes.
Yeah, body movements and yeah.
Is the technology, did it change a lot over the past 20 years? Or is it basically still the same equipment?
Again, it's the same human brain affecting the same human body, but in the technological area, yes, it's the manner in which the physiological activity is being recorded. It's all digital now, so It's actually quite easy compared to what it was many years ago. And then we can get computers involved with software programs to help evaluate the data or the information coming also with the computerized systems.
Is it difficult because the moment you tell someone you're going to go for a polygraph test, let's say even in a corporate environment, the moment someone will tell me that, I think my heart rate will go up.
Yes.
Because you see in the movies and you realize, okay, this is to catch me out. So it goes more than just normal stress to pick up that someone is really lying now.
Yes, a general nervous tension or stress, that forms the background for what is being recorded. It's kind of like a stable background, and examiners are actually looking for specific type changes from that already under stress level of physiological activity. There's certain indications of deception.
A little bit later, we're going to talk about training. So as jy nou graag dit wil doen as 'n loopbaan, gaan ons jou nou inlig waar jy wat kan doen. So as jy die waarheid wil weet en net ingeskakel, ons gesels met Slupski en die president van American International Institute of Polygraph. En dit is nou hierdie leenverklikker toetse. Ons het nou so 'n bietjie uitgevind hoe dit werk. Welcome again, Chuck.
Thank you.
Just training-wise, I think maybe there's people watching and with teenagers and say, listen, maybe you can do this for a living. What training will you undergo, and do you get different types of training?
Internationally accredited training would require 10 weeks full-time in residence, because those training programs are being inspected to make sure that the content of the instruction itself is appropriate and the qualifications of those people involved in the training. Unfortunately, there are much smaller, faster, so-called training programs because with computerized systems, people believe that in a matter of just a few weeks or a month, they know what they're doing when they really don't.
And I think there's a lot of people taking chances with that, especially in South Africa.
Again, that is true, but I wouldn't say a lot of examiners. I know a lot of great examiners in the country here that went through a lot of training, and they get a lot of experience, and they have continuing education also.
Okay. And where does training take place in South Africa?
Most of the training that I am aware of has occurred in the Pretoria area, but there's been some down in Stellenbosch. All right.
I think one of the questions that we received also via WhatsApp, can I beat or cheat a polygraph test?
The only way to truly beat the polygraph examination is to not take the test. Okay. Although I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the world that attempt every day with digital information, movement sensors, and the computer's ability to measure how fast physiological responses start. They can break the second down into hundreds of parts.
Wow.
So it's much more sophisticated with a computerized polygraph than the old type instruments.
Yeah.
How legal is it? So in terms of if you suspect someone is stealing money from you in your company, can you be fired because you failed the test?
As I understand, in South Africa, there's a lot to do in the vetting and the hiring process and work contracts, but my understanding of the law is the results of a polygraph by itself cannot be used to discipline or fire someone from employment in South Africa. And I know in the United States that's definitely the same law. It's usually to support or supplement something else, some other information.
So you've brought a sample, a visual sample of what a test would look like, and also we'll just show the blue lines on the top will be the two, how would you measure the breathing side, or you must please explain.
Yes,
You're the
two
expert.
blue lines that are moving up and down basically represent normal respiration. And that this person is sitting relatively still, which again is very important. If it's a truthful person, they do want to remain very still. And the one line that basically goes across this screen here, you'll see that in two different
You
places.
must show on the screen, you're welcome.
In two different places, in reference to this question number 5 down here at the bottom, that line goes up, and once again it's number 7.
The small thin grey line.
Yes. And then the red in color line it's a graphic representation of the heart beating, cardiovascular activity. And you can see following questions number 5 and questions number 7 in this particular exam how the blood pressure goes up dramatically.
Yes.
And in this case, I know all the case details that I'm not at liberty to discuss in any detail, but I can...
Yeah.
I wanted to know what's going on.
I can tell you that questions number 5 and questions number 7 are 2 questions that this person decided they would not be truthful to, and they later acknowledged that, and then that their admission or confession, as you would call it, was validated or substantiated independent of the polygraph.
Sure.
Just a question as well. There's typical questions. You start off with, are you male, are you married, stuff like that, before you get to the heavy questions, just to let the person settle in.
There are several different types of questions used in validated polygraph techniques, and there are some questions, as you suggested, where you might just ask the person, are they sitting in a chair and what is their name, to establish their response capability at that time of the test.
Sure. And the duration of a test, how long does it take if you really want to be thorough?
On a diagnostic test, like a suspect of maybe stealing something, the pre-test interview would normally take about 1 hour. Takes approximately 20 minutes to ask a reviewed list of questions several times, 5 to 10 minutes for the examiner to evaluate the data, make decisions, and sometimes in a matter of 10 or 15 minutes, a post-test interview. A screening test involving questions about several different types behaviors in the past, covering many years of a person's lifetime. That pre-test interviews sometimes can take between 2 and 3 hours in many cases. But again, the in-test phase, we're only looking at about 20 minutes, 3, 4, 5-minute segments with a small rest period in between.
That's what I'm thinking now. The length of the test, doesn't that have an influence on the outcome of the test? Being tired, sitting in, like almost concentrating to sit still, if you understand what I'm...
That severe concentration to remain still only lasts between 4.5 and 5 minutes at a time, again, with a 1 or 2 minute at least rest in between.
Yeah. And is it necessary for an examiner, it's him or herself, to undergo a test? Is it necessary or not really?
And
have you done one?
In the military, I was required to take a test before I could become an examiner, but I'm not aware of outside government circles where anyone in the private sector would be required to take a test.
Wow.
I know it's difficult, but how many tests have you done on people?
I've only done 1,280 something in my life.
Wow. Sure. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a very easy client. Because
Really
if you ask me, you know, as a married man, are you in love with your neighbor? I will just think, that's a dead giveaway. That's not even, I mean, that polygraph thing, I think is just going to go up in smoke.
The computer will blow up.
Yeah, definitely. Chuck, thank you for your time. And it's amazing.
Just very insightful.
I'm just so curious. I'm just going to go for one.
No, let's do one after the show.
Okay. Mom, don't ask that question about the neighbor.
I won't.
Just leave that. Yeah. I'd rather be caught out for stealing than that one. My wife is very dangerous. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Welkom by die Groot Ontbyt se YouTube kanaal. As jy dit nog nie gedoen het nie, maak seker jy teken aan deur op die rooi subscribe knoppie te klik. Maar vir meer video's soos die kan jy ook gaan na die playlist opsie. Maak intussen ook seker jy kom daagliks terug na die platform toe, want ons maak seker ons hou jou nuuskierig en op hoogte van sake met daaglikse byvoegings.